What we're going to do is just talk to the queen of creative financing, Aidelys, who has done numerous creative financing deals in her lifetime, subject to novations, wholesaling. And what we're going to do is learn from her how to do that. So if you're an agent out there and you're figuring out, hey, my only tool in my arsenal is to list property and that's it, you're behind. How did you get into creative financing and using investing as your primary source of income?
So for those of you that don't know me, I'm a real estate professional in the South Florida market. So I'm an investor and a real estate agent. So I'm one of those like unicorns that do both and understand both. I started off with a company that was very investment focused back in the day, back when you could get a lot of deals on the MLS. The market was really hot. And their strategy was just getting deals on the MLS from agents. I was always attracted to investing, but in that moment, I didn't give it the time that it needed. And then I started getting buyers and referrals and my business started growing on the residential side. And I just kind of went with the flow. But my heart was always in investing. And then since then, I've been doing more investing. I would say my business right now is like a good amount of investing and then a small amount of like residential still. So I would say like 70-30, transitioning slowly to 80-20. And the reason why we're doing residential now is because it all feeds into our investment business. Whatever opportunities don't fit our cash model or our creative model goes into the listing bucket. So we're able to grow both sides of the business. So, I mean, it works either way. And I think I'm going to hit the 10-year mark. So I think when I hit 10 years, I'll do like a celebration of like being in real estate for a decade.
Yeah, you were in residential. You were doing purely residential real estate. Something kind of, you forayed over into the investment side. So like, why creative instead of just sticking with traditional, like, the average agent who does buyers and sellers?
I had built relationships with other investors and I actually went to one of those like weekend masterminds that you go to. Not the one we hear like all the ads for, just one that for someone that I've been following for a while. And that kind of lit up my interest again in investing. So whenever they were talking, they did a presentation talking about subject to, taking over property subject to, seller finance, doing all these things that seem so intricate for me. And then my mind, I was like, damn, how are they doing this? How are they doing these deals in this way? And I think that sparked my interest. And I went and I got fired up. It was in Dallas, I remember. And then I came back and I was like, yes, I'm going to do it. I'm going to get into investing. And then I did it for like 2 months. And then I went back to what I was doing.
Okay.
Like we all do, right? Like we all go to this events, like whether it's Tony Robbins, and then we're like, this is great. And then you get pumped and then you go back and like reality hits and you get busy. So it took me I think another year to like really dive into it. And I started doing marketing and ads. What really got me really serious about investing is once I put money behind the business. It was a lot easier for me to say like, hey, you know what? I'm busy on this side of my business. Let me stop this. But once there's money attached to it, then it's like, it's grind time. How can I close these deals? Because now it's costing me something.
Yes.
So the investment more than anything. And then I got like that initial spark from going to that event and just seeing that it was possible, that other people were doing it. I'm part of a PACE's community as well. So I got the knowledge of like what all these different type of strategies are.
Yes.
And through that community, I built partners, like relationships like yours, like people that wanted to role play and learn and were eager. So that helped me as well. So it's been a series of like really high quality people learning, getting the education, but like the implementation.
Yeah. So let's talk, I mean, if you don't mind sharing, like I'm sure a lot of people know who Pace Morby is. He's probably got various programs. What did you invest into his program?
His main program is a sub 2. It's a sub 2 community. So they go into, all things creative finance. And he also teaches about pretty much everything real estate investing. They do Zoom calls. The biggest thing from the community, yes, I got a lot of value from the education, but the relationships that I built have been, I would say like even a bigger impact than the actual learning and the modules and the training. Because if you just sit there and watch a bunch of videos, but never implement and are never around people that are doing these deals, then you start to kind of think, okay, maybe this isn't for me. But being around people that are doing it, it just gives you that push and that motivation. And I through his community.
Here's a question. You don't have to answer it if you don't want to. What was your investment to Pace?
Oh, God. So it was a while back. So I know his costs have gone up. So I don't want to like cut him for his, but I think it was around like 13 or 12, something like that. I think prices have changed now. Yeah.
So guys, for less than $20,000, she got relationships. She got proximity to Pace and all of his, and she had proximity to Aaron. She had proximity to other people in the org that were helping her learn how to talk to people and sellers. And then what did she do? She took it and put her money behind it. And now she's the queen of it.
Don't feed my ego. Don't feed my ego.
She actually took the knowledge that she had and applied it with money behind it. Not just, yeah, let me dabble on this here and there. You took your money and said, I'm going to learn and be around people that are doing what I want to do.
A lot of people, when they see these like high level things like creative finance, you're like, man, that looks really cool, but I don't know if I can do it. So there's also like a reframe of like, that looks really good and really cool. They are doing it. How can I do it? So I've always been of that mindset. If someone is doing it, I can do it too.
Yes.
And what I see with a lot of agents that are introduced to this is they have a lot of limiting beliefs of like, the seller won't do this because of this. The seller will never accept this offer because of that. So I think knowing that there's people that are doing it at a high level in an ethical way, because like all the deals that we do ethically. The sellers are always like happy with the service that we're providing is a reframe. How can I do it? Or how can I make it where the seller is now open to this conversation? So mindset is a big thing. And it's a reason why some people succeed or don't succeed. And then putting some money behind it. Now, like I've taken all this education because I've also been part of other masterminds where I learned wholesaling and I learned novation. So like I am a big believer of like, who is the person that's doing what I want to do? And let me just give them money to teach me how to do it at a high level. The knowledge I get just in a couple of months from being with someone that has already done it at a high level, I'm able to like skip that learning curve and get there faster. And I've always made my money back in 3, 4, 5, 6 times. Like,
wow.
One deal, one sub-2 deal can make you that money. And we've done a bunch of those. So we've already, have made our investment back and then some.
Sure. Yeah, like what's your average? So look, guys, obviously the spreads between regular traditional listing property and creative, the spreads on creative are way bigger than traditional listings. So like what's your average spread? Like $30,000, $40,000 on like every deal?
On the deal. So I want to like give like people a kind of like a definition, right? Because creative finance per se is like subject to seller finance, wraps, getting into those type of structures. But there's also creative ways to do deals. For example, novation is another creative way to do a deal, and wholesaling, which is like a cash offer. So on the wholesale, since it's a cash deal, like, I mean, we had one deal that we made 50K, 40K, 100.
Yep.
There's no cap to how much money you can make. Now on the creative deals, we've kept some of those. So obviously on those, like we're building our portfolio and then we have assigned some of those. So it depends. Those usually, since it's a buy and hold, the assignment fees on those are smaller. They're like 10, 15, 20. And compared to a cash assignment, you know, it's all relative, but the fees on that are usually a little bit smaller because people are looking to hold to the property. So you don't make huge assignment fees for the most part. But on the cash, I mean, there's no cap. You could do 100K off of one deal. Listing
is not the only way to help a seller. There are so many other different ways. Creative finance, it's a very broad subject with many bullet points underneath it and sub deals underneath it. Creative has subject to seller finance, wholesaling, novation, wraps, these all fall under creative financing. So what we're going to do is talk about subject to and which is basically seller financing. Would you say that goes under one umbrella?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Creative finance, it's like one big umbrella. And within that umbrella, you have, you know, subject to seller finance, lease options, wraps, novations, like all these things and different ways that you can do deals. And then there's the wholesale offer, which is just a cash offer. It's just another way to do deals. So big umbrella.
So we'll talk about under this umbrella of subject to and creative or subject to and seller financing. So when would subject to and seller financing be applicable for like a seller if you're talking to a seller?
Mm-hmm. So subject to and seller finance, I want to start off by giving people like a definition of what each one is. Seller finance, I think, is more known in the real estate space and people generally understand it. Essentially, the seller is financing the property, the purchase, essentially. So instead of going to like a bank like Wells Fargo, Chase, let's say you're the seller in this instance, you're giving me the loan. Now I'm going to become the owner now. And what I tell the sellers when I do my presentation is now you're upgraded to the bank. Now you have a note. It's a secured note. I'm paying you every single month. I may or may not give you a down payment. I may or may not give you interest rate. And you could get really creative with it. You could do down payment, interest rate, no interest rate. And it depends on the goal of each person. Like with seller finance, let's say you're someone that has owned many properties for a really long period of time and you want to avoid capital gains, and you know that if you sell your property as an investor, you're going to have a big bill coming up. I can probably present, Daniel, to you an opportunity. Hey, how do we fix this problem of you having to pay a lot of money to the IRS? Is what if we just spread that out through a period of 10 years, 15 years, and you seller finance to me? Now, you still pay taxes on it, but you avoid that big lump sum. So it could be for someone like that there's like a tax benefit. Someone that doesn't need the money right now, like if there is no end game with the money, like, hey, look, I don't need the money to buy another property. Like I'm okay. Or someone that is already a landlord and understands the process of getting cash flow every month, but is tired of dealing with the tenant. What if we could flip that and keep you at that same monthly cash flow, but now you're upgraded to the bank? You don't have to deal with toilets. So that's like your ideal seller finance. And there's like a bunch of people that are retiring that don't need the money and just want steady cash flow, landlords that already are landlords and just don't want to deal with the headaches, someone that doesn't need the money, someone that wants tax benefits. But essentially, anybody could qualify for seller finance. Our ideal prospect is someone that has a property paid off if we're just structuring a seller finance note. There's absolutely no loans on the property. It's a paid off property. So when you think seller finance, think paid off. Now, after we go over what subject to is, then we'll talk about how we can combine both strategies and do subject to with seller finance, because I want to give people all the tools.
Let's talk about subject to. When would subject to, let's give a definition. What is subject to?
Subject to is just the name of the type of transaction that we're doing. So essentially, we're buying a property subject to the existing mortgage. What that means is we're keeping the current mortgage in place and we're transferring ownership. So we're keeping the loan, we're transferring ownership. And the loan is going to stay under the past seller's name. So just to make it simple, you're the owner, you have a loan for $400K. I'm buying your house at 123 Main Street. By me taking over the property, buying it subject to, I'm going to keep that mortgage for $400K for 123 Main Street. But now I'm going to become the owner on the property. So we're keeping that mortgage in place.
But why would you do so? Two questions, and I'm sure people out there are thinking something along these lines. Number one, how is that possible to keep someone's mortgage, but you still buy the property? And number two, when would that be? Like when would something like this be? Like when would that make sense for me to present that to a seller?
Yeah, so it works for any type of seller, because I don't want to give people limitations, but like the ideal prospect, especially in this market, is a property with no equity. So if there's no equity as an agent, if you're sitting there with your seller and you're having that tough conversation of, hey, in order for you to sell the house, you have to bring money to closing and you have to pay, 6% commission plus closing costs. That's a lot of money. So then the seller is having to tell you, look, I don't have the money or I don't want to pay that. And if that's what needs to happen, I can't sell. So someone that's in that type of situation with no equity, this really is the only solution that they have, is subject to. So that's one scenario.
Okay. So does the interest rate on the loan that they have come into play with this?
Exactly. So if we're looking at it from why someone would do subject to, one is that there's no equity on the property, or there's very little equity where it doesn't make sense. Another one is someone that's behind on their payments. It's a great solution for someone that's in pre-foreclosure, because a new buyer would come in and bring those payments current. So it's going to give them a positive boost on their credit and help them save the property. And then it's also going to be a good solution on the buyer, because the buyer's taking advantage, hopefully, of a low interest rate or a property that they can turn around and cash flow. So as an investor, let's say I love subject to because there's an interest rate already in place. Hopefully it's an interest rate that's back in the day when they were the good old days of the interest rates.
2020, 2021, sure.
So like you don't get those anymore. And hopefully it's a property that I can turn around and it cash flows. And also you, as an investor, it's really difficult to get a loan approved. You have to go through so many loopholes. Even as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, they're asking you, and if you own multiple entities and multiple LLCs, now it's getting more complicated. So I want to avoid that process of going through the bank, and I just want to buy a property that has a loan in place. And it's an easy process. The next day I can rent it right away, and I avoid all of that. So it works for me as well on the investment side of things.
Persistence gets it, man. Fuck, I called this lady 17 times in 2 years. And she finally picked up and said,
I got your messages.
The juice is in the follow-up. Let's ring it. See if we can get her. Can you imagine me taking a cash offer? Hi, I was looking for please. My name is Daniel. I'm actually a commercial agent in the Essex County area with Tip Commercial.